Welcome to Wise Answered. On this channel, we are going to answer all of your questions around the Wise token and the Wise ecosystem that is quickly developing. If information about Wise is something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing to the channel. Click the like button and notification bell so that you'll never miss out on any new content. Okay, so a couple days ago, Wise reservation system finally started opening. We're now in day 3. In my first video, I didn't talk about this website here that I developed called Wise Answered, so I'm going to briefly talk about that. And those of you that aren't familiar with Wise, just kind of give you a brief overview. In the crypto space, I've been involved with it since 2015. And there is a tremendous amount of very scammy, very predatory projects out there. I know this from experience. However, many of you that are new to the crypto space, you're probably not aware of this. You probably look at some of these projects, you'll see a video that is being posted, and they'll have all these claims about great returns and double, triple your money in days or weeks or within a month. All these lofty promises, but there's a predatory undercurrent that pretty much is associated with most of them. Wise is different because what's happening here is this really is more of a pure crypto play, which is very, very similar after the original model of Bitcoin, which is a pure cryptocurrency, which is the first cryptocurrency. This is why here it says Wise is a financial ecosystem designed after Bitcoin. This really is the case with Wise. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. On this website, there's information that will really help you understand a basic understanding of Wise. Where we're saying here the madness must end, this again is talking about all of the different projects that are out there and why Wise is different. Some of the absolute most important points to understand is that Wise carries no admin keys or administration keys after this project is launched. This is very, very important because this means once this project is deployed and it is now moving along, then that means that the developers can never come back into the program and change it in any way. This is very, very similar to what Bitcoin has done. The technology was done, it was released, it was put together, and now has stood the test of time. Over 10 years, it has worked flawlessly and is now becoming a tremendous store of value in the crypto space. So not having any admin keys is extremely, extremely important. When you do your vetting of other programs that you might be considering, you will see that virtually 99% of those projects still have some access from the original developers and creators to the project through having their admin keys. Wise eliminates that threat. They burn their keys. There's no way to get back into the Wise platform, the basic Wise Ethereum pair that's going to be created, which creates all of the value. Another thing that you'll find in many crypto projects is that they have pre-sales, private sales, all types of preliminary sales of tokens or giveaways, really. You've heard of things such as airdrops, but just consider that these are free tokens given to developers, investors, the owners. Maybe they use some of the money for marketing, but they give these tokens freely away. And they have virtually zero value until the value of when people purchase that cryptocurrency or that token, then they're injecting that value. Well, let's say for an example, that a cryptocurrency has 90% of that ownership, right, is privately held, and only 10% is distributed with people that can actually purchase it, who, by the way, are the ones that are injecting the value, or what's called liquidity, into the token. So that means that they're really only benefiting from 10% of the value, where the 90% ownership are receiving the lion's share of that benefit. Remember, most of them, they never even paid anything in order to receive those tokens. So they received them for free, and there's actually value that they then can down the road sell them, and they didn't have to pay anything for it, thereby creating an infinite return on their investment because they didn't invest anything in the first place. So this is very, very important to understand in the crypto space, and 99% of the people don't even know that this exists. The owner of Wise and the development team and anyone associated with creating Wise initially, they have to go ahead and purchase Wise just like you and me. They have to go through the reservation system. They have to reserve some of their Wise, which I'll show you in a second how that's done. That's how they get involved in this project. But there is no back door for them in order to get into it. There are no team tokens given out, as I just explained. This is a wide practice in the crypto space. One of the most important dynamics of the Wise token is that the contract burns the Uniswap liquidity pool tokens. This means that the value that we are sending in through Ethereum is getting locked into this token. This is extremely important that will require another video in order to explain. But just think of it in these terms. The United States used to have a dollar that was backed by gold. And when Nixon took us off the gold standard, then that meant that there was nothing tangible of value that we could actually put behind the dollar. This means that the government could technically print as much dollars as they wished, and they never had to have the associated amount of gold backing up that value. Well, what's happening here, just so that you can wrap this in your mind, when this happens, the value of Ethereum that we send in is locked into these tokens. And that means that they technically are backed up with this Ethereum value. And right now, they're approaching $4 million that has already been put into these tokens through 2 days worth of reservations. And that's going to continue to increase. And as it does that, and they continue to add more and more liquidity, right? This just continues to, in your mind, just think, this continues to add more and more gold is backing up the value of this asset. And this final bullet point is also important of note. A minimum of 90% of all token sales go directly into this Uniswap liquidity pool, but it could be as high as 99%, depending on, through these 50 days of reservations, how much Ethereum is actually raised. And this is capped by either 2,000 Ethereum or 10%. These are initial bullet points with the Wise token, but there's an awful lot more to explain. But this means, by and large, that the Wise token is the safest and most rewarding and sustainable token deployed since Bitcoin was invented. As you can see, we're on reservation day 3. There has been 1,865 unique contributors that have given 32,765 reservations, and right now they have eclipsed 7,600 Ethereum into the project. And I'll show you this in a second. But you can continue to read across this website. There's a lot of good information that'll really help you understand what this project is about. And then there's some frequently asked questions down here that will continue to develop. And then when you're ready to get wise, you can click on any of these links here and it'll bring you to the wise page where you can get an additional 10% tokens more for free. But when you go all the way here to the bottom, you click on this wise link Etherscan. This will bring up the actual contract. And I wanted to show you this because this is very, very important. This is a way that we can continue to look at and to monitor how much liquidity, how much value is coming into this project. As of right now, you can see 7,600 Ethereum are in the contract. This is a current value of $3.5 million. Right down here, you can see for transactions, these are all the transactions that are occurring as we speak, 5 minutes ago, 31 minutes ago, etc. This is amount of Ethereum that people are putting into the system and reserving. But if we click on this analytics page, it gives us more of a visual understanding of what's happening. What's happening right now is that all the way here on October 7th is when this all started to happen. When we were able to start reserving on different days. We're now closing days, which I'll go to the website and show you in a second. But this shows you the amount of value that has been continuing to pour into this project from the beginning. And now we've gotten up here to $3.4 million worth of value that is now in the contract. So let's go ahead and take a look at this reservation page. When you go to wisetoken.net and you then click on this reservation tab, that's when you get to seeing each one of the individual days. And you can see we're now on day 3. These first 2 days, day 1 and day 2, are closed. We can no longer get into these days. But now I want to show you some of the math behind this to understand what is a good day for you to get into. So let me go ahead and pull up a calculator and we'll do a little bit of math. Let's go ahead and take a look at this very first day. So what is being expressed to us here is that on this day, this is a fixed day, 5 million Ys will be distributed amongst 1,110 users that sent in their reservation, but it's really dispersed by Ethereum. Since there was 645.94 Ethereum, that this 5 million will be dispersed throughout, this is how we'll do that calculation. You take 5 million, you divide it by the amount of Ethereum, 645.94 Ethereum. This means for every Ethereum, 7,740 Ys are distributed amongst each of those Ethereum. Now, let's say you're an individual that reserved on day 1 with 1 Ethereum. Then you would have received 7,740 Ys on that day. That's already now committed to you. The system has already allocated it. It will show you down here your percentage of Ys that day, how much of this total 5 million you've received, and it'll say right here what your contribution was. If it was 1 whole Ethereum, then it'll say 1.00. But let's say that you only put in a quarter of an Ethereum. Then you can simply multiply that number by 0.25, and it'll show you 1,935 Ethereum is actually what you have reserved, and you will be granted at the end of this 50-day process. Okay, simple enough. Let's go ahead and take a look at day 2. Again, we have 5 million Ys. We're going to divide that by 500.37 Ethereum. Now, if you, again, reserved one full Ethereum, now you would have had almost 10,000 Ys. Now, why is that? That's because this amount of Ethereum for the same amount of Ys is far less than it was on day one. There's 645 Ethereum here that 5 million is dispersed along. And on day two, there's that same 5 million is dispersed by just over 500 Ethereum. So now this starts to make a little more sense. Now we can look at day 3, which will close tomorrow. Again, we still have 5 million Ys. We're going to divide it against 354.97 Ethereum. Now we're up to 14,000 Ys for every 1 Ethereum. So let's say on this day you wanted to do the minimum reservation, which is 0.05 Ethereum. You would simply multiply this times 0.05. And that would mean that on this day, if you just put the minimum that you can invest in WISE tokens, that would be 704 WISE tokens that you would receive. So now when we start thinking about that, we can see that as the amount of Ethereum is less and less, on fixed days of 5 million WISE being distributed, we're gaining more and more. So now let's look at the next 3 days. Well, now we're dropping considerably, down to 296 Ethereum, 307 Ethereum. So we already know through those calculations that we'll be able to receive more WISE on these days. But there's a caveat associated with this. These days are not closed yet. What if on these days they end up closing higher than, let's say, day 1 or day 2? If these, by the time that they close, let's say day 6 is closing in 3 days and 17 hours, by that time, let's say this was a day we were going to reserve at, or better yet, to say this day right here, 296.06, out of these 3 days here, this is the best, right? It's the lowest amount of Ethereum. But let's say it actually ends having more than 500 WISE in it. Well, then that means that this would have been a better day than this day. But you can no longer reserve here because this day is closed. So this is a little bit of the strategy that's involved in figuring out which day would be best for you and how to invest in that. Now, a fun thing that WISE is doing is they're also having random days. These are selected by, let's go up here to the main page, and if you scroll down here to the Provable Oracle API, this is not controlled by WISE themselves, right? You can look at this link right here to go to the Provable Oracle, but this is basically a random number generator that no one knows, not even the developers of WISE, what that will be. Now, what that does with a random generation of a number, if we click back up here to reservations and we go to this page, the Provable Oracle is going to select a number between 4.5 million WISE and 5.5 million WISE. This means that it could be a little less than this 5 million average, or it could be a little bit more. Well, now when we look at this and we say, well, there's 254 Ethereum, well, we might have to divide it by 4.5 million, or we might have to divide it by 5.5 million. These are the two, this is the lower and the higher range of how many WISE tokens we'll receive. So this starts adding some interest and fun and excitement into it, We might do better than this average fixed amount of 5 million Ys per day, or we might do a little worse. And then there's some days where it gets extreme, where it could be as little as only 1 Ys or as much as almost 10 million Ys. Going back to the Ys Answered website, if you hover over the Jump To button here at the top and scroll down to Ys Simulator and click on that, then you'll go to another website that we've created that has an actual simulator that you can use to understand Ys a little bit better. This is a free download. You can simply click on it, you can open it, or you can save the file to your desktop and go ahead and use it. So let me show you. You can look at the other video that we did, but let me just again go over just a couple things very, very quickly. The current Ethereum to USD price right now, as of this video, is $460. So we can go ahead and we can adjust that. Let's say that our initial investment into Ys is going to be 1 Ethereum. So we've go ahead and we've established this. When we go up to this area here, this is the Ys market capitalization, or Ys market cap. What's happening right now during this 50-day launch period is we are injecting value, liquidity, into the Ys token. And remember when I said that this is going to be burned into this Ethereum Ys pair on Uniswap. Well, currently, as I already showed you, we have $3.4 million in the project, but only 2 days have closed. We still have 48 more days to go. So we're probably definitely going to eclipse 5 million, but let's say we have $10 million of liquidity that comes in during that period. At the end of December, on December 30th, that's when the reservation period ends, December 31st, the very next day, we are able to then take this reservations. It will be converted to Ys. There will be a process where we will mint it into tokens, and then they will show up in our MetaMask wallet. Then we have an option to do 2 things. One is we could sell it on Uniswap. The second thing that we could do is we could stake it. So let's talk about the 2 things. The first option, selling it, you probably will not want to do that, because what's going to happen is Ys is going to establish price based on the average price. And most people are not going to be able to game the system well enough to do far better than the average price that would make it worth their while to actually sell it. This was brilliance on Ys's part. Why would we want to sell it? Because the average price is going to be established, and we're probably not going to game the system very well to be able to get a much higher price for our Ys than we actually accumulated it for. That means that a lot of people are not going to go out there and sell it, which is fine, because the main purpose of the Ys token is to actually stake it and earn interest, or earn more Ys every single day. That's the second option that we're going to have. So a lot of people are going to hold and stake their Ys for a period of time. Those periods of time can be anything from between 1 day and 42 years. Many people will have many different strategies, and we'll talk about many of those on this channel. But most people are going to stake their Ys and earn interest, or earn more Ys. But a lot of people then, by that time, are going to want to be part of this project. They're going to want to themselves get Ys. Let's say that 100% of the people that went through this 50-day reservation period decided to stake their Ys. Not one person decided to sell it. How is anyone else going to be able to get Ys? Well, they have to go to Uniswap and buy it. Well, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because all of the Ethereum that we're putting in right now and creating this Ethereum Ys pair, all of that value allows for an immediate market. This means all of that liquidity is already there in Uniswap. It's already available for anybody else to come in and purchase. And that's what people are going to be doing over the next year. And when they do that, then additional liquidity is going to start coming in to the Wise ecosystem. So let's say $5 million comes in over the next year, where over the next 50 days we've put in $10 million. Well, this means that we are going to receive 2.25 times the value that we put in over the next year. Well, what if that increases to 10 million over the next year? Well, then that means that we're going to receive 4 times the money, 4 times the value of whatever we purchased our Wise for. If that increases to 15 or 20 million or 25 million, right, we can see that we're now getting 12.25 times the value or our money in Wise over the next year. This is why it's so important to understand this reservation period is extremely important. This is a tremendous opportunity. Think about it this way. It's a tremendous opportunity to get involved with Wise, very, very similar to the initial people who were mining Bitcoin at the very earliest of stages. This market that's going to be created in the Wise ecosystem over the next year is going to be very financially rewarding. So I think that's enough for this video. If you have any questions, please submit them to wiseanswered@gmail.com. If you like the content of this video, please think about subscribing to the channel for more content like this. And in the cryptocurrency space, we now all have the opportunity to get wise.